I knew I was gonna screw something up. The whole like scheduling this stuff so that I can do it on the live. So I've been scheduling it through my laptop so that I can share it to the Patreon, and I screwed up the last one. So I had to redo it. But you guys made it back. Thank you. So let's jump back in and get right back to it. Okay. Steel looks good. Nice and hot. Got a good long soak. Let's see where we're at time wise. We got 23 seconds. Great. Get your port back in holder. Set up over here again. Now I only use the big dies for setting the weld, but this second weld, I still don't go too hard. I don't want to go too hard too fast. I have the tendency of working my steel very gently. So, yeah. So I'm gonna pull it out. I'm gonna set that weld, and after the, or not set the weld, but forge a second time. And once I've worked it, I'm still only really kind of trying to work it hot right now. I don't want to work it too cold. So once I've worked it, reduced it probably by an overall of maybe a half an inch or so, I'm gonna pull it over to the welding bench. And I have my drawings over there, so I gotta move those, not catch them on fire. But I'm gonna move it over to the welding bench, and then I'm gonna fix that handle, and then I'll get it put back in the fire. I just realized I need to have some welding rod ready to go. And get the welder turned on. And let's see. Only I was better organized. Okay. Whoops. Okay. That's all ready to go. Helps if you turn this on. All right. All that good? Bring you guys back over here. Let's see. We'll set you up right there. Woo, there's a lot of heat coming off of that. All right. Tongs are helpful. Moving this around. All right, here we go. Realize, I don't know if, oh, that is open. Okay. There's a lot of forge scale on here. When there's a lot of forge scale, it likes to pop like that, like crazy. I don't know if I'm actually helping this or not. We'll see. What a mess. Let's see what turning the. Alright, I'm done messing with that. Alright. Temperature wise, I'm really not too concerned about the steel cooling off like this. I did try to add a little bit of fill in there to help hold the handle on a little better. Alright. Alright, now that it's had its long soak, it does not need to soak as long anymore, so I'm going to turn the temperature back up. We're going to get the steel nice and hot. Get after it again. Okay. I did not get a chance to draw the thing I wanted to draw, so I'm going to draw it right now. All right, so for this first phase, where we go? There we go. Yeah. This first phase, we're making the seed, okay? Keep wanting to like try to look over my glasses. All right, I'm bring it a little closer because I'm guessing that the sound of the forge is kind of loud. Okay, so we have our stack. Title. Okay. First weld, we have our starting stack of steel. So the phase we're in is just reducing it down to a square bar. Because the next thing we want to do is then forge it on the bias. Outline. So what I'm drawing is the outline that I will use later for, I'm sorry, not. This is a, step this up so you can actually see what I'm drawing. Meaning. Try to see if I can set this up on the anvil. Oh, I know. Turn this camera around. Point it here. This surface. Fine. The camera is so mad at me right now. Like, what are you doing? Turn that back over. Okay. So we got our stack. We reduce it into a square. We're going to turn it and forge it on the bias in both directions, so that eventually we forge it to a new square, or we do what's called re-squaring. It causes the lines to kind of bow out like this. And then we're going to turn it and forge it on the bias again. It's so awkward to draw like this. Sorry. Struggling. So then we rotate it so that the lines are oriented in a vertical orientation. And then we're going to forge it on the bias again. But we're going to work predominantly in this vertical orientation so that we reduce it to a kind of, it'll be round at the edges, flat on the top and the bottom. And we're going to start creating kind of this bowing, these C shapes. So after this, the next step will be to cut it in half. Vertically, right through here, after we true up the edges. And then we're going to stack it up and start assembling the finished good. All right, I'm going to flip this around. It's super mad at me right now. I don't like it being mad at me because I want it to work. Oh, hey, look at that. It's no longer freaking out, telling me I'm doing right wrong. On it. Again, I appreciate you guys hanging out through through the difficulties. This is going to be a learning curve for all of us. Patience for you, and process for me. Yeah. Okay. So that's all in the first weld. And I think what I worked out that what I want to do is I'm gonna scribble this out and say actually next step is to true up those corners. Now this might be kind of tricky for the anyway. Drawing these in. Okay. So it'll be trued up a little bit more like this, and then we will split it in half. But dimensionally, right here, what I want, and this is going to be the hard part because of how narrow the stack is already. Normally my starting stacks are 1.5 inches wide. It's really easy to get it to a 2-inch or 2 1/4 inch square almost even. And then Yeah, split it in half down the length across the face. No, I'll use the bandsaw. I'm not going to do it hot. So I'm going to finish all the forging. I'm going to thermocycle the billet, and then I'm going to let it cool down, and I'll do all the cutting and grinding when they cool. Okay, so needs to be at least what I'm looking for, 5/8 by 3 inches. But getting that 3-inch width is going to be tricky because the billet's pretty narrow. I'm going to try to keep it as wide as possible. Sometimes this happens when you're making a pattern, is that you plan things out and then you're like, oh, I didn't take that into account. I'm working with material that already existed, these gradient elements. Um, they already had them made. Normally, like I said, my flat stock, when I build a brand new billet, is 1.5 inches wide. The gradient stock was already at like 1.25 inches, or maybe just a little bit less. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to forge it on the bias. I'm going to create these C-bars. I'm going to try to keep the billet, the bar, as big as I possibly can. But I don't have a lot of faith that I'm going to hit that 3-inch mark because I still have to true up those edges. So I should probably do a little work to figure out, all right, what the next step down would be. So I have to go to half inch would be the next logical choice to make this a 2 by 2 billet. That's half. So half inch by 2 inch, I think I can do. That's going to make making the rest of these elements kind of tricky. So I'm going to try to hit that 5/8. What I'll do is I'll get the 5. I'll switch it down to 5/8 thick, and then we'll see where we're at with wise. If we have to go narrower, then I will adjust the design. I might even have to make adjustments in the approach. So yeah, we'll see. But again, trying to make a cool kind of bird wing kind of pattern on the blade. All right, steel is almost up to temp. So something I like to do, I feel like this is just not in my life. Got all the hair, glasses, ear hooks. Okay, so the steel is hot, right? Pretty hot there. But again, that right side is always going to be a little bit cooler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip that billet. I'm going to give it 2 more minutes. Usually it only takes a couple more minutes. And then I'm going to pull it out and I'm going to keep forging. It does seem like it's starting to want to, because it was so narrow in relationship to the height of the billet. I find that if you get outside of a 3-to-1 ratio, so the height is your 3-to-1. If you get too far outside of that, or if you start to get outside of that, things start to become a little unstable. I try to stay inside of that, which is why usually my starting billets that are usually around 4 inches by 1.5 inches, or yeah, 1.5 inches wide, that's plenty of a footprint to keep everything really kind of nice and stable. But if you get too tall in relationship to your width, then you lack some structural integrity kind of in a way in that billet. Because again, initially they're all separate pieces, right? And so they can move on, especially in that first round of welding. They can do some funky stuff. And so I'm just going to make sure to kind of go slow, work hot, and gently, which is the way I work anyway. I don't do like big hog downs, like ever. I do little bites, like little Pac-Man bites. And so I kind of what I refer to as massaging the steel out. So that way, if If I notice something get weird, I can stop before things get too out of hand, heat the steel back up, I can do some correction. Anyway, I'm going to flip this billet over, give it a couple more minutes, and then get it under the press. See if I can spin it inside the, yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a very noticeable difference. Very noticeable difference between the temperature on that right side and that left side. Let's see. I don't know if you can see it here anymore. Basically, I kind of want yeah, you can see that right edge is just a tad hotter than the left. So I kind of want everything to come up to a more even temperature where it's actually kind of doing it at this point. Great. Before the right side starts to get too cold, I'm going to pull this steel back out and start forging on it. Okay. I missed a lot. The pattern is similar to the dragon's breath pattern. So it uses, that's a great question, Mike. It does use some of that approach, but it is not the same pattern. So in the dragon's breath mosaic, you make a C-bar and then you split it down the middle. I'm going to be doing the same thing, but it's all about how you're orienting those half Cs. And so I'm organizing them in a way so that they look like feathers of a bird's wing as they're stacked. So they're going to be big feathers, medium-sized feathers, and small feathers. So it's not necessarily a play on the seraphim. I don't like calling it that because even though Will made his seraphim before I'm making this, I've had this drawn out on paper for probably close to 10 years, and I've never made it. But I am going to be taking inspiration from his approach to really get those feathers kind of laid over and laid out, rather than kind of my more vertical approach with the edge leading forging. I'm going to do Will's hex approach, which actually he just posted about that recently, which is cool. All right, I think we're good. Let's get you in here. Let's get you a little bit closer if we can. All right. All right. You can see that curve a little bit. Honestly, I have heat to go farther, but I really don't like how it's curving like that. I want to straighten that out before I go much farther. And so I'm going to get it back in the forge, get it ripping hot, and then the first thing I'm going to do is hit that and then forge it vertically. I'd say one of the hardest things, or the trickiest things for me to learn when making Damascus, when to stop. Even, like I said, I still have plenty of heat in there, right? Plenty of heat. But if I keep forging vertically just because I have heat there, that's going to cause that curvature, that buckling, to become a lot more dramatic. Probably to the point where I couldn't really fix it. So, before I get too far, I'm going to stop, put it back in, get it nice and ripping hot again, and then the first thing I'm going to do is correct that. I didn't want to do that on that last round because I'd only done 2 rounds of forging at that point. And I don't like forging against the welds. So when you forge against the edge of the billet versus the flats, top and the bottom, which is in line with how all the plates are stacked, right? You're setting those welds in that vertical orientation. Anytime you turn it sideways and start forging it the other way, you are now working against those welds, potentially causing them to tear apart. If they haven't had enough time to weld properly, stick together, they are going to come apart on you. I don't like to start forging on edge until at least the 3rd round, which is the 3rd round, or because I need to be corrected, or the 4th round. But yeah, I didn't want to start on the edges in that last round because to me it doesn't feel like it's had enough time yet. And it, for all I know, it has had plenty of time. But I've had things come apart on me by chasing after them in the other direction, working against those welds, trying to do that too quickly or too early, and it totally just destroys the whole build. It's not worth it to me to be in a rush to save myself 2 minutes when I've already put 10 hours in this thing. It's not worth it. So, we're getting it nice and hot. I'm actually going to rotisserie this thing, get it spun around in there. Just to get it coming up to temperature. Alright, if you guys have questions, like I said, this spot, this pattern, similar dragon fire. It's similar, like I said, in the one particular way that the seeds are being split down the middle. But after that, it's not the same. Alright, Michael Powell says, okay, cool. First, cool. Alright, thank you for jumping in, Mike. Rick, I appreciate you. We got Gunther Singh. Thank you, Michael, for taking the time to report and share your knowledge. Yes, sir. So, to reiterate, people who didn't see the first part of this, I'm going to be editing these live streams so that they are useful. Because right now, we're at already 28 minutes, and I've only forged on the steel for about 35 seconds. So, there's going to be a lot of heavy editing. I'm sure there's going to be some takeaways from the chat here, but yeah, I'm going to be doing editing, and then those videos are going to go live in the Patreon, and they're going to have more voiceover, often me talking about all this stuff about forge welding and when it feels safe to weld, when it doesn't. I'm just going to let that side heat up again. And so, yeah, the videos on the Patreon will be good. But these live streams are kind of meant for everybody, kind of, but it's going to be a slog. You're going to have to do some work to show some patience. Again, I think what I said, you're learning patience and I'm learning process. I guess I'm probably also learning patience because this gets very frustrating. Yeah, the editing, hopefully the editing is going to be cool. They're probably going to start out pretty rough and simple. But really, I think, especially from an education standpoint, while you want them to be as engaging as possible, the value of the content is really where it's at, educational content, not necessarily the production, I guess, the production value. So, again, Rich Patterson said earlier that the audio sounds all right. I would love for you guys, if you can, to chime in. Let me know how it still sounds. So I'm just watching this. Actually, I just realized set this up sometime where it's just like forge ASMR. So you can see that left edge is definitely hotter than the right edge. It's all hot there, but that left edge is definitely hotter. So I'm going to give this a spin. Okay, that's good sugar shuffle. I'm probably going to honestly do a lot of voiceover because I know that the audio isn't the best. I don't have a lapel mic yet. I will in the future, but that's just not where we're at right now. So I'll do extra work to make sure that the audio is on. So now you can see that hot side is on the right. Once that left side comes up to temp, we're going to pull it back out. We're going to straighten that billet out before forging on it vertically. Says there are 11 people in here watching. Where's everybody from? I love knowing where people are from. How did you find this? Are you a Patreon person? If you're not a Patreon person, how did you find this? I'm curious. I don't know. I don't know how people find this kind of stuff. I'm gonna jump into Chrome and see if I can see the live stream. Anyways, um, it's getting close. Getting close. I'm watching the video. Okay. I will probably be using this as a tool in the future for setting up shots. So please bear with me while I'm working through the bumps of this stuff. All right, this steel is hot. I'm gonna close this. Get this set up. I'm actually gonna. I just realized they're wearing a pair of gloves either. What they're saying is Brazilian living in Sweden. Oh, interesting. Building a hobby workshop at the moment. Always been a big fan. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm gonna turn the forge press on. It's gotta be loud. Loud noises coming your way. All right. Again, we're flattening it first, and then we're gonna forge on the edge. Saying that mostly for myself because I know I'll forget. Oh shit! It's already actually coming apart. I can see it. Damn it. Okay. I could see that there was actually a crack on the end of the billet. Apparently I didn't do a good enough job when I was welding it up because I was kind of in a hurry. Again, potentially wasting hours of work to save a couple seconds. Not the best philosophy. Okay, set that down for a second. I need to add more weld to the end of that billet. Otherwise, it's just going to fall apart on me. It's so fucking messy over here. driving me crazy. Don't want to drop my phone. That'd be a bummer. All right, put you guys in here. Oh, how am I gonna do this? It's so damn hot right now. I don't think there's any super smart way to do it. I think I just gotta grit and bear it. It's gonna get hot. I'm not too excited about this. I haven't had this happen in a very, 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 very long time. So much crap over here. Driving me nuts. Okay, I'm gonna wire brush the end of the billet. Then I'm going to get in there with the welder. Hopefully, close it up. As good as that gets. Actually, I'm just realizing probably the best thing I can do is put this in the vise. That is why it's nice to have a vise near your welding station. Gotta make sure I connect the electrical. Run this over. Right there. Okay. I'm gonna move you guys. God damn it. I feel like a fucking mole in a china shop right now. Tell you what. Okay. Hopefully that fixed the problem. Not pretty, but hopefully it will help hold it together. Okay. ourselves, why did that happen? Why did that happen? I think the simple answer is that I was rushing myself honestly more than anything. In preparation, I should have double made sure that I had really good welds. I actually, when I was grinding that billet, I could feel part of the billet vibrating, and I should have looked at it a second time. Because my guess is that one of the welds cracked at the very beginning before I even put it in the forge, and I should have double checked it. It did seem odd. I've never ground on a billet during either the initial layup or at any other point felt part of that billet vibrating. That means it's loose. So should have looked at that. Hopefully we can salvage it. It'll be a bummer if we can't. But I feel like we should be able to. I'm actually, probably what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually turn the temperature down, and I'm actually going to give it another long soak, because essentially that's a brand new weld in there. Because it was not just from the welding on the welder, but from the last compression. I did forge it back together, but basically that's a brand new weld. Now I want to give it time to age, because it never properly got a chance to age earlier, before I do anything else. I'm glad I didn't actually start forging on the end of it, because that would have caused that weld to just go whop, and that would have been a fucking nightmare to put back together. Alright, so I'm going to turn the temp down. We're going to let it soak again. Okay, so getting kind of long in the tooth again regarding videos. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to cut this one, unless somebody's got a question real quick. I'm going to cut this one, let this thing age, and we're going to go for another video. Hopefully by that point, everything's really nice and solid, looking good. If it fails, then you guys get to watch it come apart and fail. I'm going to be very sad and frustrated. But I guess that's part of the learning process. I can make another pattern. I can do it all again. And I try to remember that, like, the greatest lessons, the greatest wisdom that any of us gain in whatever aspect of our lives, honestly, are through the failures and the hard times, the mistakes made, the hard lessons learned. That's why it's called the school of the hard knocks. I think. I don't know. I don't really like that term, school of the hard knocks. Like, only if you're tough enough. I don't like that. I think it takes an aware person, an observant person, to reflect on their mistakes, figure out what they can learn from it, and progress in a positive way, so that they either reduce the chances of making those mistakes, or if they make them, then they know how to fix them. I've only done this a couple times before, and honestly only really think of one. But it doesn't feel good. So, alright, so I'm going to set a timer on this thing, and I'm going to get another live stream set up. I understand how to do it now, so that should go a lot smoother next time around. And then we'll get back to it and get this thing forged out. Rick, thank you. Failure doesn't matter unless it's the last time you're going to try. Yeah. What is it? It's there's some. I can't even feign to quote this thing, but essentially it's like, it's not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get up. I think that can be seen as it's not how many mistakes you make, but how many lessons you learn from those mistakes. And I even say this to my kid. He's 9 years old now, and he's a kid. He's making mistakes all the time. He loves Legos. He's making mistakes, building Legos. Things fall apart. He comes up with his own builds, all this stuff. But it's like, he does all kinds of stuff, and he makes mistakes. And he gets really hard on himself. I'm like, dude, listen. You're allowed to make mistakes. What's a mistake is a lesson in disguise. The question is whether or not you have the patience um, to take the time to reflect on how that mistake was made and how you can make improvements in the future. That's it. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. I turned the temp down a little bit too low. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit hotter. And then I'm going to cut the live stream, set a new one up, and then I'll meet you guys back here. I might also try to find something to eat because I haven't eaten today, and it's noon. So there. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back. Peace.